Oh, they miss him. They know they miss him, especially with Des Bryant being hurt. They know they miss him. And, Joseph Randle did a nice job. He actually carried it a few more times, I think, than people thought he would. Carried it 16 times last week. And he seemed to hold up okay. I think the Eagles provided a little different challenge this week than the Giants did and will continue to during the course of the year. But, it's been the source of much conversation, obviously, for the last 9 months. And I guess only time will tell if the Cowboys made the right choice. I think the Cowboys feel that, pretty much everyone can run behind the line. And also that Romo is playing at such a high level right now that they can pretty much invoke sort of a New England-style passing game, just a really a short passing game with the passes out of his hands that fast that ultimately the defenders can't get to him. So it acts as a de facto running game. That's where Lance Dunbar was really effective against the Giants last week.
So, Chuck, did they have a look of a different team in Game 1 without Murray? Did you say, man, this team looks different without DeMarco Murray?
Well, yeah, because they didn't. Well, I mean, they tried to run it on first down. They still did. I mean, the game was a weird game because they were their own worst enemy because they kept turning it over. The Giants scored points off the turnovers. So overall, though, they weren't, because until they fell behind 10 points late in the third quarter, they were still pretty balanced. And that's ultimately what they want to be, much more so than I think a lot of other teams in the league. But ultimately, when they fell behind, Romo really had to start pitching it around a little bit, and he obviously did a really good job with it too. But I do think the types of passes that they threw were a little bit different. They didn't really try to push it down the field very much. I mean, some of that was due to the Giants having their safeties play as deep as they played. Some of it, though, I think was by design, and I think some of that has to do maybe the safeties didn't feel the need to have to come up and try to stop the Cowboys running game because there wasn't a DeMarco Murray threat.
Now you factor in Des Bryant out, and there's been a lot of conversation. Chip Kelly brought it up this week. He kind of joked. Look, he said they asked him if it's going to be tough to game plan, not knowing what Dallas is going to do without him. He said, I'll still take a game without Des than having him in there. But how do you think this Cowboy team is going to to look without now Des Bryant, already without DeMarco Murray?
Well, I think for this game or overall?
Well, and how long do they think Des is going to be out? I mean, is this going to be something where they're going to have to completely change the look of their team for an extended period of time, you would think, right?
Well, he's going to be out for an extended period of time. I mean, he's going to be out at least 6 weeks.
Right.
And probably longer than that. They unless Terrence Williams develops into this super-duper deep threat, they don't have a real deep threat. So there is going to be an adjustment. And I think what you're going to see a lot more of is Gavin Escobar being involved in the offense as a second tight end, like a Zach Ertz type of tight end going down the seam. So he can probably get a little bit deeper than Jason Witten can at this time in his career. And I think you'll see a lot more one-back, two tight end, maybe not play as much, with guys who are going to get down the field. Because right now the only guy who has any ability to get down the field at all is Terrence Williams. Devin Street can't do that. They just acquired Bryce Butler this week, and he's not going to be able to do that for a while. Cole Beasley's a slot guy. Not like he's going to push the ball down the field. But the guy who can run down the seam and who's got great hands is Escobar. So I think that's likely to be the adjustment that they ultimately make. I mean, I can't see the Eagles really worrying about double teaming anybody on the outside. I can't see that. I see the middle of the field being pretty much bunched up and daring the Cowboys to try to play in the middle of the field.
Chuck Cooperstein, 103.3 Dallas with us. If I was to ask you, Chuck, what is the identity of the Cowboys? What did they want it to be? Last year it looked like 35% of the offense was DeMarco Murray. It seemed like they wanted to be a run team. What did they want their identity to be this year?
Same thing. They want to be able to run the ball. They don't want to have Romo throwing the ball 40 times. Yeah. That has never been a recipe for success. Jason Garrett was finally saw the light last year. He's a guy that's always wanted to throw it, and his quarterback has always been one who's wanted to throw it. And I think the combination of maturity on both and the fact that Romo has been hurt as much as he's been hurt, and the fact that the Cowboys have absolutely nobody behind him if he does get hurt, allowed them to change philosophy. And Scott Linehan was the one to be able to implement that. So ultimately, I think they very much want to be able to run the ball, or when they do throw, be in a position where they're not in where they're chasing chains. Because if they do that, then Romo has mobility, but he doesn't have the mobility he once had, and they just can't afford him to be hurt. I mean, you could say that about 31 other NFL teams too, but I don't know that anybody has a worse backup quarterback situation right now in the Cowboys team.
And Witten has been an all-time great. Is he a guy whose role expands, or is he just not at that level anymore where he can be a focal point of your offense?
I mean, he still does what he does. I mean, I don't think that's ever changed. I mean, he still is he's a guy that the Romo relies on in third down situations. He's never going to be a stretch the field down the seam kind of guy. I mean, he's a great blocker. He understands what's going on. He still has tremendous value to them. I have never been one that has been on the huge Jason Witten's the Hall of Famer bandwagon. I mean, I'm not sure anything that he does exceptionally well, other than the fact that he's a really good football player who's been doing it for a really long time. But I think they'll move it around. There won't be a focus on anyone per se, and I don't think there really can afford to be. I mean, I think Romo reads the defense. He sees where the ball takes him, what the defense is going to get to him, and then he'll react accordingly.
Chuck, I last year when this Dallas, when people were talking about Dallas, you were talking about defense, and people thought they'd be historically bad defensively. They were a pretty good defensive team last year. No Hardy, Lee is back, Gregory out. What are they defensively right now?
I think they're iffy. I mean, now Tyrone Crawford does have a chance to be a monster at defensive tackle, at the free technique tackle. And that is the most important position in Rod Marinelli's defense. You've got to be able to have someone who can really mess things up from that spot. And Crawford can. He had the lone sack for the Cowboys against the Giants last week, and I think he's going to have a monster year. But Mincy is not a guy that's a great pass rusher. They've got without Gregory, without Hardy, DeMarcus Lawrence showed signs of life toward the end of last year, but did not play well against the Giants on opening night. I think without Gregory and without Hardy, there's a lot of plotting going on there, and I don't know that there will be a great pass rush. And obviously, that exposes your secondary tremendously. I thought Mo Claiborne played really well though last week, probably the best game he's played as a Cowboy in a long, long time. Brandon Carr was certainly acceptable. Their secondary is not bad. Their secondary actually tackles pretty well. Lee was pretty good in his first game back. He looked a little rusty early, but he got better in the second half. They were very, very careful with him. Probably a little too careful, in my opinion, in the preseason in trying to get him to opening night. And the guy who's a really good player for them, who nobody talks about, is a guy they drafted in the fourth round last year, Anthony Hitchens out of Iowa, who took over really as the middle linebacker when Rolando McClain was in and out of the lineup. And I tell you, Anthony Hitchens is a player. Anthony Hitchens finds the ball and makes things happen. And even with McClain being suspended for the first 4 games of the year, when he comes back, he's just a bonus to have around. Anthony Hitchens is your guy in the middle right now. So, they've got I would say they are average. I still don't think that they are a great defense by any stretch. I still don't think they have a great pass rush. And teams are working so hard to try to get rid of the ball so fast that it's very difficult to rush the passer these days. But really, it's going to be on the secondary, to continue to play as well as it played against the Giants. I thought they played really well in the game.
Chuck Cooperstein with us, 103.3 Dallas. Here I feel like the game being in September has maybe taken a little bit out of it. How have the fans been this week getting ready for Eagles so early in the season? Do you sense down there, too, that it just doesn't maybe – I know the last 2 years they played in the final week for the division. Last year they played Thanksgiving and then 2 weeks later, so a lot of late-season matchups. This one, it seems like there's just a lot of feeling out still.
Well, everybody's feeling out in the NFL. I mean, this is the preseason. September is the preseason in the NFL. August is nominally the preseason. but nobody plays, so nobody knows. This is the time when you really know, what you have, and it is kind of unfortunate that you have like really important games being played this early in the year when teams really aren't as prepared to play those games as they otherwise would be. But everybody's excited for Dallas. Everybody believes that this team has a legit chance when they do have all hands on deck to go to the Super Bowl. Now, again, the Dez injury is a huge blow, because who knows, even if he does come back, will he be Dez, or will he be just a facsimile of himself? But overall, people are as excited about this team as they've been probably since the 2008 season. When they coming off the 13-3 year, and there was a lot of expectation that came with that. Ultimately, they disappointed. I have know what's going to happen with them this year, but I think Jason Garrett's got a program in place. I think his players have bought into that program. I think he's got a pretty good coaching staff there. And so, there's always the excitement that comes with the Cowboys, but I think there's even more excitement with the belief that they actually have a chance to be threatening to go back to the Super Bowl, which obviously they haven't done in a long time.
Last one for injuries, and coming to Philly, is there a sense of maybe this isn't our week?
No, I don't sense that at all. Cowboys have taken the attitude of the opponent is nameless and faceless. That at least that's the message they sent to his team. Now, when you get into the cauldron of the link on Sunday, it'll probably be a little bit different. But the message is about us. It's about what we do, how we do it, and if we do it right, we'll win. And if we don't do enough things right, we won't win. And I think Chuck Kelly pretty much takes that same attitude.
All right, 3 o'clock coverage here on 97.3 ESPN on Sunday. Merrill and Mike have the call at 4:25. Chuck Cooperstein, 103.3 in Dallas, where, of course, the rivalry is very early this year in September. Thank you, Chuck.
Appreciate you having me, Mike.